It's Super Videos back at you for another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about what's on everyone's mind after 708, which is who is the mysterious boot-wearing watcher. Part of this was in the episode itself, part of it was in the after credits. The part that was in the episode itself, Aaron and Rick are on their mission to get the supplies from this boat in this pond with all of those walker trap. When they load the truck and they're about to leave, we get this shot of this man or woman who's wearing this boot. The boot seems to have this wired coil wrapped around in the ankles, which is weird. But then this comes back into play at the end of the episode in the post-credits as well. After the credits roll, we get this shot of different sections of Alexandria. We see a shot of Father Gabriel on watch, and it's through binoculars. There's someone, a male or a female, spying on Alexandria, but we don't get to see their face. But when they jump down the tree, we see they have the same boots as the person who was spying on Aaron and Rick when they were back at the boat area. So there's one thing I want to mention here. This has to be an important character. Now, I'm not saying that the community, if he's from a community, is going to be very big, but I think this character is going to be a long-standing character. And I have two reasons for that. One is that part of this was in the after credits, and they don't put anything in the after credits if it's not important. The two instances where they put something in the after credits was one, Morgan coming back, which was a big deal because we haven't seen Morgan in a long time, and his reintroduction into the story was big. And the other after credits scene was when the motorcycles roll up on Abraham, Daryl, and Stasha, coming back to the mysterious boots. The second reason I think this mysterious boot guy or girl is going to be important is because this specific introduction was not original. They actually did this in the comics. In the comics, we have Jesus spying on Alexandria and making his introduction that way. But in the show, they ended up scratching that and changing Jesus' introduction and gave his introduction to this new character here. So if this character isn't going to be a big character, I don't see them giving an iconic introduction like the one Jesus had to this new character. So because of that, I think this character is going to be a big character coming up. Going to who I don't think this is. One, I don't think this is Alpha from the Whispers. And if you're a comic reader, you know who I'm talking about. Now, the main reason I don't think this is Alpha or anything to do with the Whispers is because it's way too early in the storyline. There's a lot of things that happen in between, and it's gonna add a lot of complexities if they bring in the Whispers this early, and they have to explain why the Saviors and the Whispers never crossed paths. So because of that, I don't think it's Alpha or anyone from the Whispers. Plus, there's no indication that they use techniques that the Whispers use. So because of that, it's not the Whispers at all. And then there are people who think that it's actually Dwight. But there are several reasons why we can rule out Dwight as being the mysterious boot-wearing guy. Because, for one, he's not wearing the same boot. If you look at episode 3, The Cell, and if you take a look at this shot that I have here, side by side, with the shot of the mysterious boots, you see they're two different boots. So it's not Dwight. Now, to add to that, this mysterious person seems to be wearing a boot that is ripped. And it's just not in a good condition. And Dwight seems to be wearing clothes that are in good condition. To show another picture of Dwight's boots and kind of compare it to these mysterious boots, you see that it's two different boots. Now, the front of the boot gives it away because the mysterious boots have some sort of pattern at the front of the boot. But for Dwight, it's an entirely different boot. The next thing that's pointing to this not being Dwight is, if you take a look at the character, looking through binoculars again, you can see that you don't see the burn on the face. Because Dwight, of course, has the burn on his face. So you don't see that on this mysterious character. So that kind of adds to the fact that this is probably not Dwight. Now, there is something that they put in there to throw us off. If you look back at 708, when Daryl is escaping, he goes to this room, and from the belongings and the statue, we know it's Dwight's room. And in that room, Dwight has a binocular. This is there to kind of throw us off. We would think that it's probably Dwight there's some evidence for it, but as you see, there's a lot more evidence pointing to it not being Dwight. The next theory is that it could be Cindy from the Oceanside. Now, again, for Cindy, if you take a look at this picture, she's wearing a different boot. And there's another picture that I have here. You see, she's still wearing a different boot than the boots of the mysterious character. Now, one thing for sure is that how did she follow Tara back? Or why did she follow Tara back? There is no reason for her to be following Tara back and spying on them, because she, of course, helped Tara. So there's no reason for her to be following her back. Now, some people said that she probably got exiled or things like that, but the leader at the Oceanside, Natania, seems to be related to Cindy. So I don't think she would just exile Cindy because of helping Tara. So I don't think it's Cindy either. And also it can't be anyone else from the Oceanside because none of them were close enough to Tara to follow her back to Alexandria. And then we gotta add something in here as well, because the first time they were seen was back at the pond area with Rick and Aaron. So they weren't even at Alexandria the first time we saw them. So even if they did follow Tara back, they would be at Alexandria first, not near the pond area. So now let's move on to who it could be. So the first possibility is that it could definitely be the person who owned that boat, who had those supplies in there. So Rick and Aaron basically stole this stuff from this guy. His name is Leslie William Stanton, so that's who it could be. It could be the guy who owned the boat. So he was just watching them and he followed them back to their camp. And it kind of adds to the note he put as well, because he said, you may be winning, but you still lose. So it's like a trap. Leslie put that in there so they would go and get the stuff, and then Leslie would follow them back to their camp and attack them or something. So that's one possibility as well. And then to add to that, if you take a look at the shot I have here with Aaron jumping into the boat, you see there's binoculars there as well. So there's two instances where we actually see binoculars in 708. So one of them is definitely there to throw us off. I think it's the one with Dwight's binoculars, but you could say that Rick and Aaron could have taken that. So that's also another thing we need to think about. The other possibility is that it's a character from an entirely new community. A community that is not related to any community we've seen so far. So a brand new one. Now, they could go two ways. They could have this new community and introduce the new community into the story and have the people at this new community not have any knowledge about Negan and the Saviors, in which case this new community is basically there to space out the season, much like Dawn in Season 5. Now, the other possibility is that they actually know them as well, and they were once under their rule, or are still under their rule of the Saviors, and this is their way to come in contact with Rick and maybe help him out when the war starts. In which case, the storyline with this new community actually serves the story as well with where we are. So these are the two main possibilities. I think it's either Leslie William Stanton from the boat area, or it's an entirely new character from a new community. Now let's look at who it could be in terms of the comics. So there's no new characters that haven't been introduced already that this could be. Now there's one exception. It could be a character named Magna from the comics. Now Magna is introduced in the comics way later, after dealing with Negan and the Saviors. So it doesn't make sense for them to bring her this early. Also, her introduction into the story is a bit special. So also because of that, it doesn't really make sense for them to bring her in earlier, because of her introduction being a little special in the comics. For comic readers, you know what I'm referring to here. Overall, to kind of put everything into perspective, I think the mysterious boot-wearing watcher is probably Leslie William Stanton from the boat area, the person who Aaron and Rick stole from, or it's an entirely new character. Now I'm leaning more towards it being an entirely new character from a new community, but I could also see it being the owner of the boat. It just depends on what story they have set up and what they want to do. So they could go both ways, but I'm leaning more towards it being a new character. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.